Mom, I'm sorry. It's an intimate ceremony. Sophia doesn't think you'd be comfortable there. She says you're kind of... Well, you know how you can be. I heard those words come through the phone clear as a church bell on Sunday morning. My own son, Ethan, saying them like he was reading off a grocery list. Usual. Almost apologetic, but not quite. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg him to reconsider or ask him what he meant by, you know how you can be. I just sat there at my kitchen table in Columbus, Ohio, with a half-eaten tuna sandwich in front of me and said one word. Bae. 3 hours later my phone showed 22 missed calls. All from him. All frantic. All too late. We'll get to that part in a minute, but first let me ask you something. Where are you right now? What time is it where you are? Maybe you're on your lunch break scrolling through videos. Maybe it's late and you can't sleep. Maybe you're avoiding something you don't want to deal with. Whatever it is, I want you to do me a favor. If this story hits you the way I think it will, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you've ever felt invisible to someone you loved. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe because trust me, you're gonna want to know how this ends. My name is Linda Martinez. I'm 67 years old, and I've lived in the same house on Maple Street in Columbus for 35 years. That Wednesday afternoon when my son called, I was doing what I always did on Wednesdays, organizing my coupon folder, the one with the little plastic sleeves where I keep every buy one get one deal and every dollar off special, because when you've spent most of your life counting pennies, you don't just stop. The house was quiet. The ceiling fan clicked with every rotation like it had for the past decade. Outside, somebody's car alarm went off and stopped. Normal. Ordinary. The kind of day where nothing terrible is supposed to happen. Then my phone rang. Ethan's face lit up the screen. That photo from his college graduation where he's got his arm around me and we're both grinning like we'd won the lottery. I'd worked a 16-hour shift the day before that photo was taken. My back had ached so bad I could barely stand up straight. But I'd smiled anyway because that was his day and nothing was gonna ruin it. Hey honey, I said, picking up on the second ring. This is a nice surprise. Hey ma'am, you got a minute? Something in his voice made my stomach drop. That careful tone. That distance. Course. What's going on? Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. I just needed to talk to you about something. I heard a voice in the background. Female. Dark. Then Ethan cleared his throat. So, about the wedding. Finally, I said, trying to sound cheerful. I was starting to think you two were gonna elope and not tell me. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. Forced. No, nothing like that. It's just Sophia and I have been talking and we're trying to keep the guest list really small. Like super intimate. Just immediate family and really close friends. Okay, I said slowly. That sounds nice. Another pause. Another whispered voice in the background, closer to the phone this time. The thing is, Mom, Sophia feels like maybe it would be better if you didn't come. For a second I thought I'd heard him wrong. The words didn't make sense strung together like that. What? She thinks you might not be comfortable. It's gonna be really formal, really elegant, and she's worried you might feel out of place. Plus, you know, she says sometimes you can be a little... much. That word sat in my kitchen like a stone. Much how? I asked, my voice still calm. He rushed ahead, words tumbling over each other. Just, you know, emotional. Dramatic. She wants everything to be smooth and classy, and she's worried that if you're there, things might get complicated. I looked around my kitchen. At the fridge covered in photos of Ethan from birth to last Christmas. At the countertop I'd scrubbed 10,000 times. At my hands, wrinkled and spotted, holding a phone that was delivering a message I never imagined I'd hear. So your fiancé thinks I'll embarrass you, I said quietly. It's not like that, Mom. Don't make this a big thing. We can celebrate together some other time. Just you and me. Maybe dinner or something. And right there I understood. This wasn't a conversation. This was a notification. A decision that had already been made in conversations I wasn't part of. By people who'd decided I was a problem to be managed. My throat burned. My pride wanted to scream. But my voice stayed steady. Okay, I said. Mom, don't be like that. Like what? You're not mad, are you? Please don't be mad. I said, okay, Ethan. You two have a beautiful wedding." I hung up before he could say anything else. The ceiling fan kept clicking. The car alarm was silent now. My sandwich sat there getting warm and soggy. I stared at it for a long time, not really seeing it, just feeling the hurt turn from something soft into something hard and sharp in my chest. I stood up, walked to the sink, ran cold water over my hands even though they weren't dirty, looked out the window at the backyard where Ethan used to play when he was little, back when I was the most important person in his world, back when my hugs could fix anything. That's when I made my decision. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet shift inside me. If they wanted me gone, I could arrange that. But I was taking everything I'd given with me. 3 hours later, I was sitting at that same table with a calculator and a stack of bank statements when my phone started buzzing. Once, 5 times, 10 times. I flipped it over and watched the notifications pile up. By the time it stopped, there were 22 missed calls. Turns out when the bank freezes an account and a wedding venue calls to say the deposit vanished, people suddenly remember your phone number. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you about the 35 years that led to that phone call. Let me tell you what it costs to be the person who always figures it out. Because this story doesn't start with a wedding invitation I never got. It starts way before that, in a hospital room on a Tuesday morning when I woke up next to my husband and realized he wasn't breathing. I was 32 years old when Robert died. He was 34. We'd been married for 11 years. He went to sleep next to me talking about fixing the fence on Saturday, and he never woke up. Heart attack, the doctors said. Sometimes it just happens. Young, healthy guys. No warning. I wanted to ask them how my heart was supposed to keep beating when his had stopped. How I was supposed to get up and make breakfast and answer questions from our 6-year-old son when the world had just ended. But I didn't ask any of that. I just nodded, signed papers, made phone calls, planned a funeral. People brought casseroles. They hugged me. They said things like, "He's in a better place," and "God has a plan," and "You're so strong." I smiled and thanked them and served coffee after the service like a good widow should. Then I opened the mail. "Mom, I got in," he said, his voice cracking. Actually got in. I hugged him and felt the weight of what that meant. Tuition. Dorm fees. A future I desperately wanted him to have and no idea how to pay for. "I'll pay you back," he promised. "Every penny. With interest." I laughed and said what I'd heard my own mother say, what I thought good mothers were supposed to say. "Family doesn't keep score, honey." He believed me. Believed me. Funny how that line haunts me now. Sitting here years later with 22 missed calls on my phone from a son who just told me I was too much to invite to his wedding. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped being his mother and became his emergency fund. And the worst part is I let it happen. I thought if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, paid enough, he'd always see me as someone worth keeping close. I was wrong. I opened a savings account the summer before Ethan started college. I called it Ethan's Future because that felt right. That felt like love. I started putting money in whenever I could. $20 here. $50 there. Every extra shift at the diner. Every tax refund. Every birthday check from my aunt in Cleveland. It all went into that account. Kept a notebook too. Small, spiral-bound, tucked in the drawer by my bed. I wrote down every deposit, every sacrifice, every choice I made to build something for him. Skipped dentist appointments, saved $85. Worked double shift on Thanksgiving, extra $200. Sold Robert's old tools at garage sale, $130. The pages filled up with my life reduced to numbers and notes. And every time I wrote something down I felt proud. This was what good mothers did. We built futures for our kids even when we had no future of our own. College was expensive in ways I hadn't prepared for. Even with his partial scholarship and the student loans he took out, there were always gaps. A laptop that died right before finals. Books that cost $300 for one class. Lab fees nobody mentioned until the bill showed up. Every time he called with that apologetic tone in his voice, I said the same thing. "Don't worry about it, honey. I've got it covered." I refinanced the house to free up cash. I picked up a third cleaning job at a law firm that had me working until midnight 3 days a week. I traded my car for something cheaper that got better gas mileage. I was 51 years old, scrubbing floors on my hands and knees while lawyers slept in their warm beds, and I told myself it was worth it because Ethan was thriving. He made the dean's list. He got an internship at a marketing firm. He graduated with honors and landed a job that actually paid decent money. The day he called to tell me about the job, I cried. Not sad tears. Proud tears. Relief tears. Done it. I'd gotten him to the finish line. Mom, he said, his voice bright with excitement, I'm gonna make you proud. I'm gonna take care of you now. I held on to those words like a lifeline. After graduation, Ethan moved into a cramped apartment near downtown. It was small and loud, and the heat barely worked in winter. He never complained, but I could hear the stress in his voice when he talked about rent and student loans and how little was left at the end of each month. That's when I made the decision. I'd been saving for years. Between the account I'd built and a small inheritance from my aunt, I had enough to help him in a way that would actually matter. I could buy him a place. Something he could live in without throwing money away on rent. Something stable. Took me 4 months to find the right condo. 2 bedrooms, quiet neighborhood, parking spot, little balcony overlooking a park. The asking price was $675,000. I'd never spent that much money on anything in my entire life. My hands shook when I signed the papers. I put it in my name because I wanted to protect it. Make sure nobody could ever take it from him. When I gave him the keys, he stared at them like they might disappear. Mom, I can't accept this. This is insane. You're not accepting anything, I said. I'm giving you a home. You deserve to start your life without worrying about rent. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You're the best mom in the world, he whispered. I swear I'll make this up to you. I thought he already had just by being my son. Over the next few years I kept helping. His student loans were crushing him. $65,000 at interest rates that made my stomach hurt. I started making payments on his behalf. 1,000 here, 1,500 there. Chipping away at the balance without telling him exactly how much. I paid for car repairs when his transmission failed. I covered his insurance when he was between jobs for 2 months. I sent monthly transfers, just a couple hundred, to make sure he had breathing room. My notebook filled up with lines. Extra weekend shift. Sent 500 to Ethan's loan. Skipped new glasses, used money for his car payment. Didn't take vacation, sent him emergency fund instead. Felt useful, needed, proud. This was what good mothers did. We gave. We sacrificed. We built safety nets for our children even when we were standing on quicksand ourselves. One day I told myself. One day he'll look back and understand. One day he'll see everything I did and know how loved he was. But as I sat at my kitchen table years later staring at 22 missed calls from a son who just uninvited me to his wedding, I realized something cold and sharp. One day never comes when you teach people that your love has no limits and no cost. I met her on a Sunday in April, 3 years after I'd given Ethan the condo keys. He'd called the night before, voice bright with that particular kind of excitement that meant his life was changing. Mom, I want you to meet someone. Can you come by tomorrow around 1? My heart lifted. He wanted me to meet her. That had to be good. That had to mean I mattered. I showed up 10 minutes early with a homemade apple pie, the kind Ethan had loved since he was little. I knocked twice and waited, smoothing down my shirt, suddenly worried I looked too old, too plain, too much like someone who cleaned office buildings for a living. The door opened and she was standing there. Sophia. She was beautiful in that polished, Pinterest-perfect way. Blonde hair in loose waves. White teeth. Designer jeans that probably cost more than my car payment. She looked like the kind of woman who'd never scrubbed a toilet in her life. You must be Linda, she said, stepping aside. Come in, come in. Ethan's just finishing up a call. I stepped into the condo I'd bought and found myself feeling like a guest in someone else's home. The furniture was different. Everything looked more expensive, more coordinated. Sophia gestured to the couch. Does it? Can I get you anything? Water? Wine? I'm fine, thank you. She perched on the arm of the chair across from me, wine glass already in hand even though it was 1 in the afternoon. So you're the famous Linda, she said, smiling. Ethan talks about you all the time. About how you got him this place. That's so generous. The way she said generous made it sound like something else. Something questionable. I just wanted my son to have a good start, I said. Oh, absolutely. Though I keep telling him he's spoiled. My parents made me work for everything. I think it builds character, you know? There it was. That edge underneath the smile. The suggestion that I'd done something wrong by helping my son. Ethan appeared from the hallway, grinning. Mom, you made it. He hugged me and I held on maybe a second too long, breathing in the smell of his cologne, the same kind his father used to wear. The visit lasted an hour. I sat on furniture I'd helped him buy in a home I'd purchased, listening to Sophia talk about her job in digital marketing, her spin studio, her girls' trip to Miami next month. She had a way of talking that made everything sound both impressive and exhausting. Like her life was a highlight reel she was narrating for an invisible audience. When I left, Ethan walked me to the door. She's great, right? He whispered. I wanted to say something honest. Something like, she looked at me like I'm a problem she'll need to solve eventually. But he looked so happy, so hopeful. And I didn't want to be the mother who couldn't be happy for her son. She seems very confident, I said instead. Yes, I think you two are gonna get along great. I nodded and left. And on the drive home I replayed her words. Spoil. Built character. Made me work for everything. I told myself I was being oversensitive. That she was just direct. That I needed to give her a chance. So I tried. Over the next few months, I showed up when I thought I'd be useful. I brought groceries when Ethan mentioned they were busy with work. I offered to watch their dog when they went out of town. I sent Sophia a birthday card with a gift certificate to that fancy spa she'd mentioned. She texted back 2 words. Thanks, Linda. Not even an exclamation point. Ethan started calling less. When he did, the conversations got shorter. Can't talk long, Mom. We're meal prepping. Hey, sorry, heading out. I'll call you later. Later never came. And when I did reach him, Sophia's voice was always there in the background. Light and sweet, saying things like, babe, tell your mom we'll visit soon, in a tone that meant never. I started noticing little things. The way she'd answer his phone when I called. He's in the shower, Linda. I'll have him call you back. He never did. The way she'd post photos of them at brunches and concerts and weekend trips without ever mentioning me. Even though I'd slipped Ethan money to cover the hotel. The comments she'd make. Visual. Cutting. Ethan and I are really trying to be more independent. Stand on our own, you know. Independent. As if living rent-free in a condo I'd purchased was standing on their own. I tried harder. I sent thoughtful texts. I asked questions about her work. I complimented her Instagram posts. The more I tried, the more I felt like I was being evaluated and failing some test I didn't know I was taking. Ethan didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't say anything. He just floated between us, trying to keep everyone happy. His smile getting thinner every time I saw him. Then the engagement photos appeared online. Beautiful. Glowing. Him on one knee by the river. Her with her hand over her mouth. Perfect surprise face. Ring catching the golden hour light. Option, she said yes. Luckiest guy alive. 438 likes in the first hour. My phone didn't ring. I stared at that photo, waiting for the call that should have come first. The excited voice saying, Mom, guess what? Never came. I scrolled to the comments and typed. Congratulations, sweetheart. So happy for you both. I waited for a response. Like, anything. Nothing. 2 days later he finally called. Mom, hey. Sorry I didn't call sooner. It's been crazy. Congratulations, honey. I saw the photos. They're beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, Sophia planned the whole thing. It was perfect. When's the big day? We're thinking next fall. She wants an outdoor ceremony. Something really elegant. That sounds wonderful. If you need any help, you know I'm here. There was a pause. Sophia's voice in the background. Muffled but insistent. Actually, Sophia's got it pretty under control. Her mom's helping a lot, you know. Mother of the bride stuff. Mother of the bride stuff. Like the groom's mother was just a spectator. Right, I said quietly. Well, let me know if there's anything I can do. For sure. Listen, I gotta go. Love you. The call ended before I could say it back. Weeks turned into months. I heard nothing about venues or dates or guest lists. Just silence, except for occasional texts from Ethan asking how I was. Surface level. Brief. So I did what I always did when I felt helpless. I sent money. I started transferring extra into his account. 300 instead of 200. Then 400. Then 5. I told myself it was for the wedding. For deposits and down payments and all the expenses that come with planning something big. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to be part of it, even if I couldn't be in the room where decisions were being made. One afternoon, Ethan called to thank me for covering the venue deposit. Mom, you didn't have to do that. I wanted to. It's your wedding. I want it to be perfect. Sophia's really excited. Place is gorgeous. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Future tense. Like I'd be there. Like I was included. I held on to those words like a prayer. A month later. Mom, can you help with the photographer? They need a deposit by Friday. I sent $3,000 that afternoon. A few weeks after that, Sophia found her dream dress, but it's a little over budget. Any chance you could help? Help. $5,000. I never asked to see the dress. Never asked to come along to fittings or tastings or planning sessions. I just sent what they needed and waited for the thank you texts that came hours later, brief and distant. Then my daughter-in-law-to-be's mother posted something on Facebook. I didn't see it myself. My neighbor Carol called me. Linda, honey, I don't want to start trouble, but did you see what Sophia's mom posted? What? She shared a photo of the seating chart. For the wedding. My stomach dropped, and Carol was quiet for a moment. Your name's not on it. Maybe it's not the final version, I said, hearing how hollow that sounded. Maybe Carol said gently. But sweetie, you've paid for half that wedding. You should be more than on the seating chart. She was right. But I couldn't make myself ask. Couldn't force myself to call Ethan and say, am I invited to your wedding? Because I was terrified of the answer. So I kept sending money. Kept answering texts. Kept pretending everything was fine. Even as the freeze-out continued. Even as I started to realize the truth. I wasn't being included in the wedding. I was being tolerated long enough to pay for it. The morning it all fell apart started ordinary enough. I woke up at 6 like I always did. Made coffee in the pot that took forever to brew because I kept meaning to replace it but never got around to it. Sat at the kitchen table with the newspaper and my coupon folder. Outside, the Martinez kid from down the street was shooting hoops in his driveway. The same rhythmic bounce, bounce, bounce that marked every Wednesday morning in summer. The wedding was 2 months away. I knew this because Sophia had posted a countdown on Instagram. 61 days until I become Mrs. Ethan Martinez, with a picture of champagne and her ring sparkling in the sunlight. I still hadn't received an invitation. I checked the mail every single day for 3 weeks. Nothing. Just bills and grocery store flyers and credit card offers. I told myself it was coming. That they were waiting on some detail. That any day now a fancy envelope would show up with my name written in calligraphy. But deep down, in that place where mothers keep truths they don't want to speak out loud, I knew. I knew something was wrong. I spent the morning trying to distract myself. I reorganized the pantry. I wiped down cabinets that were already clean. I folded and refolded the kitchen towels. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind quiet. That's when my phone rang. Ethan's name lit up the screen and my heart jumped. Finally, I thought. Finally, he's calling about the wedding. About what I should wear. About whether I wanted to ride with someone or drive myself. About normal mother of the groom things. I answered on the second ring. Hey honey. You busy? Never too busy for you. What's going on? There was a pause. Long one. I heard Sophia's voice in the background. Too quiet to make out the words but sharp enough to hear the tone. So I needed to talk to you about something, Ethan said. My stomach dropped. That voice. That careful, distant voice. Bae. It's about the wedding. I waited, gripping the phone tighter. Sophia and I have been talking and we're trying to keep everything really small. Really intimate. Just the people who are like super close to us. Okay, I said slowly. And the thing is, it's gonna be a really formal event. Really elegant. Black tie, fancy venue, the whole thing. That sounds beautiful, honey. Another pause. Another whispered instruction from Sophia. Louder this time. Mom, Sophia thinks maybe you'd be more comfortable sitting this one out. The words hit me like cold water. Sitting what out? The wedding. She thinks you might not fit in with the vibe she's going for. And honestly, she's worried you might make things awkward. Awkward how? He rushed ahead like he'd rehearsed this. You know how you can get kind of emotional about stuff. How you make things a bigger deal than they need to be. Sophia wants everything smooth and classy. And she's concerned that if you're there, you might, I don't know, cause drama or something. Drama. I looked around my kitchen. At the picture of Ethan in his Little League uniform stuck to the fridge with a magnet. At the Mother's Day card he'd made me in 3rd grade. Still hanging on the bulletin board 23 years later. At the countertop where I'd made him 10,000 sandwiches and helped him with 10,000 homework assignments. So I'm not invited to your wedding, I said quietly. It's not that you're not invited. It's just that Sophia thinks it would be better for everyone if you didn't come. We can celebrate together some other time. Just you and me. Maybe go to dinner or something after they get back from the honeymoon. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break exactly. A shift. Like a foundation settling. Does Sophia know I paid for the venue? Yes. Ethan hesitated. I mean, yeah, and we're super grateful, but that doesn't really change the fact that this is her day and she gets to decide who she's comfortable having there. Her day. Not his day. Not their day. Her day. And she's not comfortable with me. Mom, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Please. Just understand. Understand, I said. And I did. I understood perfectly. I understood that I'd spent 35 years raising a son who could stand in a home I'd purchased, planning a wedding I'd funded, and tell me I was too embarrassing to attend. I understood that every sacrifice I'd made, every double shift I'd worked, every time I'd gone without so he could have more, had led to this moment. I understood that I'd taught him my love had no price and no limit, and he'd learned that lesson so well he'd stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a resource. You're not upset, are you? Yes. Because Sophia's already stressed about the planning and I don't want to add to it. I'm not upset, I lied. You two have a beautiful wedding. Okay, good. Thanks for understanding, Mom. You're the best. I hung up before he could say anything else. The kitchen went silent except for the tick of the clock above the sink and the distant sound of the basketball bouncing down the street. I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I stood up. I walked through my house slowly like I was seeing it for the first time. In the living room, there was a framed photo from Ethan's high school graduation. Both of us smiling, his arm around my shoulders. I'd worked 16 hours the day before that photo. My feet had hurt so bad I could barely walk. But I'd smiled anyway. In the hallway, there was the handprint he'd made in kindergarten, pressed into clay, painted blue. I'd kept it for 28 years. On the bookshelf, a mug he'd made me in 2nd grade. World's best mom, in wobbly letters. I'd believed that once. That I was a good mom. That all the sacrifice meant something. I went to my bedroom and pulled out the shoebox from the top shelf of my closet. The one labeled, Ethan's Future. Inside were years of my life reduced to paper. Bank statements, receipts, loan payment records. My worn notebook with its careful entries. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened it. Worked double on Christmas Eve, extra $280. Skipped dentist again, saved $85 for his books. Sold my wedding ring, $650 to his emergency fund. That last one made my breath catch. I'd forgotten about that. 3 years ago when he'd called, panicked, saying his car had broken down and he didn't have money for the repair. I'd taken off the ring Robert gave me 35 years ago and sold it to a pawn shop. Ethan had never asked where the money came from. He just said thanks and moved on. I flipped through page after page. A decade of sacrifices. A decade of giving everything I had. And what had it bought me? A son who thought I was too dramatic to invite to his wedding. My hands started to shake. Not from sadness. From something else. Something colder. Clarity. I reached for my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed. Thomas Brennan. The lawyer who'd helped me after Robert died. Pressed call. He answered on the third ring. Thomas Brennan. Thomas, it's Linda Martinez. I need to ask you some questions about what I'm legally allowed to take back. There was a pause. Linda, is everything all right? I'm fine, I said. I'm just done being used. I heard papers rustling on his end. Tell me what's going on. I did. Not the emotional parts. Not the hurt. Just the facts. The condo I'd purchased in my name. The monthly transfers. The wedding expenses. The years of support that had turned into expectations. And now, I finished. I need to know what I can take back. Thomas didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was careful, professional. Linda, the condo is in your name, correct? Correct. Then you have every right to decide who lives there. You'd need to give 30 days notice in Ohio, but yes, you can ask him to leave. I wrote that down. 30 days. What about the money I've been sending him? If it's coming from your accounts, you can stop whenever you want. No explanation needed. And the wedding deposits. If your name is on the contracts, you can cancel. You might lose some deposits depending on the vendor, but you're within your rights. Felt something shift. Not relief exactly. Power. What about my will? Yes. What about it? I want Ethan removed as my beneficiary. I want to make sure if something happens to me, he doesn't get anything. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Linda, are you absolutely sure about this? These are significant steps. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right. Come to my office tomorrow morning. We'll go through everything and make sure you're protected. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my bedroom and pulled out my calculator. Time to add up exactly what I'd given. The condo. $675,000. Student loan payments over 4 years. $41,000. Monthly transfers for 6 years, averaging $250 a month. $18,000. Emergency payments, car repairs, insurance, medical bills. $12,000 at least. Wedding expenses so far. Venue deposit, dress, photographer, florist, caterer, $15,000. Total. $761,000. $761,000. And for what? So he could stand in a home I'd bought and tell me I was too much to invite to his wedding. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The automatic transfer to Ethan's account was scheduled for next week. $250 like clockwork. I'd set it up 3 years ago and never missed a payment. My cursor hovered over the cancel button. I thought about calling him first. Giving him a chance to apologize. To make this right. But then I remembered his voice on the phone. The ease with which he'd delivered the news. The way he'd asked me not to make things harder. Like my feelings were an inconvenience. Clicked cancel. A confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring transfer? Clicked yes. Then I went through everything else. The credit card I'd given him for emergencies that he'd been using for dinners and trips. Cancelled. The savings account I'd set up as his cushion. Transferred back to my primary account. The payment I'd scheduled to the wedding venue. Cancelled with an email requesting a refund. Every click felt like pulling a thread, watching something unravel. But it didn't feel destructive. Felt like taking myself back. By the time the sun started to set, I dismantled every financial connection between us. No more automatic deposits. No more safety net. No more being the invisible support system nobody appreciated. I made a list of next steps. Eviction notice, update will, document everything. Then my phone started buzzing. Once. 5 times. I picked it up and saw the notifications. Decline transaction. Decline transaction. Decline transaction. Then the calls started. I watched Ethan's name flash on my screen. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times. I didn't answer. I sat there in the growing darkness, watching the missed calls pile up like a tower, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. By Thursday morning, there were 43 missed calls and a dozen text messages. Mom, call me back. Something's wrong with the cards. Mom, seriously, what's going on? The venue is calling about payment. Why aren't you answering? I deleted them without reading past the first few words. At 9:45, I was sitting in Thomas's office with my shoebox and a cup of coffee going cold in my hand. His office smelled like leather and old books, the kind of place that felt serious and safe. He spread documents across his desk. First things first. Condo. You want him out? I'll draft a formal notice today. 30 days is the legal requirement. After that, if he hasn't vacated, we pursue eviction. He pulled out another form. Now your will. Currently Ethan is listed as primary beneficiary. You want to change that? I want my sister's daughter, Emma, as beneficiary. And I want 50% going to a women's shelter here in Columbus. The one that helps older women facing financial abuse from family. Thomas raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. He just made notes. What about documentation of the money you've given him? I want everything on record. Every payment for the last 10 years. In case he tries to claim I owe him something. Thomas leaned back. Linda, I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Certain. That's because I've never been certain before. I've always been afraid. Afraid of losing him. Afraid of being a bad mother. I'm done being afraid. 2 hours later, I walked out with copies of everything. The eviction notice would be delivered by certified mail the next morning. The will was updated and notarized. The payment records compiled into one document showing exactly how much I'd given. My next stop was the bank. The manager, a woman named Patricia who'd helped me refinance the house years ago, brought me into her office. Mrs. Martinez, your son has been calling here. He says there's been a mistake with his accounts. There's no mistake, I said calmly. I've removed my financial support. I need to make sure he has no access to anything with my name on it. Patricia's eyebrows lifted, but she was professional enough not to pry. Course. We went through everything. Joint checking account, closed. Credit card with his name as authorized user. Cancelled. Savings account with his cushion money. Transferred entirely to my account. Is there anything else? Patricia asked. I want alerts for any attempts to access my accounts. And I want a note that I'm the only person authorized to make changes. From the bank I drove to the florist. The owner recognized me immediately. Mrs. Martinez, we've been trying to reach you about final payment. I'm canceling the order, I said. Her face fell. No. The wedding is only 2 months away. The wedding can proceed however they want. I just won't be paying for it. Unfortunately, the deposit is non-refundable. Understand. She processed the cancellation while I stood there feeling lighter with each signature. Next was the venue. Then the caterer. Then the photographer. Same reaction everywhere. Surprise, concern. Then the statement about non-refundable deposits. By the end of the day, I'd lost nearly $10,000 in deposits. It was worth every penny. That evening, I sat in my backyard and watched the sun set. My phone stayed silent. At 8, I went inside, locked the doors and made tea. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone to call. Wasn't hoping for anyone's approval. Wasn't trying to earn my place in someone's life. I was just existing whole and complete on my own. The phone buzzed one more time. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. I turned it off completely and went to bed. Tomorrow he'd receive the eviction notice. Tomorrow he'd realize this wasn't a mistake or a tantrum. Tomorrow he'd understand I was serious. But tonight I slept, deep and dreamless and free. The wedding was scheduled for 3 o'clock on a Saturday in late September. I woke that morning to sunshine and birdsong and, for just a moment before I fully opened my eyes, I forgot what day it was. Then I remembered. Today was the day my son was getting married without me. I expected it to hurt more than it did. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Like I'd already grieved this loss in the weeks leading up to it. I got out of bed, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with a crossword puzzle. At 9, I called my friend Carol and asked if she wanted to catch a movie. She said yes without asking why I was free on a Saturday. I appreciated that about Carol. She never pried. The movie started at 11. I bought popcorn and a soda and let myself disappear into someone else's story. One where everything worked out in the end. When the credits rolled, I checked my phone out of habit. 19 missed calls. All from Ethan. 5 texts. I didn't read them. I could imagine what they said. Panic. Blame. Desperation. Carol and I had lunch at a diner near the theater. We talked about her grandkids and the weather and whether the library book club was worth joining. She didn't mention the wedding. If she knew, she was kind enough not to ask. My phone buzzed 3 more times during lunch. I turned it face down. By 4 o'clock I was home in comfortable clothes, sitting in my backyard with a book I'd been meaning to read. The sun was warm. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass. Down the street kids were laughing. My phone rang again at 4:30. This time it wasn't Ethan. It was Emma, my niece. "Aunt Linda," she said when I answered. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." "Why?" "Because Ethan just called me, freaking out. He said the wedding's a disaster. That vendors are leaving. That nothing's paid for. He said you did this on purpose." "I did," I said calmly. "Good," Emma said, and I heard the smile in her voice. "It's about damn time." 5. My phone lit up one more time. 22 missed calls total. 22 times my son had suddenly remembered my number. I turned the phone off and poured myself a glass of wine. For the first time in 35 years, I wasn't the person who fixed everything. And it felt wonderful. They showed up on Tuesday. I was in the garden pulling weeds when I heard the car doors slam. 2 doors. 2 people. I didn't look up. I kept working, my hands in the soil, feeling the earth cool and damp between my fingers. Footsteps on the driveway. Fast and heavy. Then the doorbell. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. The kind of ringing that said patience had already run out. I stood slowly, brushed the dirt from my knees, and walked to the front door. Through the frosted glass, I could see their shapes. Ethan, tall and rigid. Sophia beside him, arms crossed. Opened the door. Ethan's face was red, his jaw clenched tight. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Sophia's makeup was perfect, but her eyes were ice cold. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice shaking. "We need to talk." "All right," I said calmly. "Come in." They stepped inside like they owned the place. Sophia's heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I'd refinished myself. We stood in the living room. I didn't offer them seats. "What you did was unforgivable," Ethan started. His hands clenched at his sides. "You humiliated us. You ruined our wedding. Do you have any idea what that day was supposed to mean?" "I have some idea," I said evenly, considering I paid for most of it. Sophia's eyes flashed. "You pulled funding at the last second like some kind of vindictive psycho. We had guests there. My family, Ethan's colleagues. Do you know how embarrassing it was when the coordinator announced there was a payment issue?" "I imagine it was very embarrassing," I replied. "That's all you have to say." Ethan's voice rose. "You destroyed the biggest day of our lives and you're just standing there like it's nothing." "I didn't destroy anything, Ethan. I simply stopped paying for an event I wasn't invited to." "We explained that," Sophia cut in. "It was intimate. We couldn't invite everyone. But you could invite 200 people," I said quietly. "You just couldn't invite me." Ethan ran his hand through his hair, that gesture he'd done since he was a boy. "You're twisting this." Sophia wanted a certain vibe. "We didn't think you'd understand." A vibe I was too dramatic to fit into. Sophia stepped forward. "Look, Linda, I know you're upset, but this is between you and Ethan. You didn't need to punish me." I almost laughed. "Punish you, Sophia? I've never punished anyone. I simply stopped being invisible while funding your visible life. You cancelled everything," Ethan said, his voice cracking. "The flowers, the photographer, the food. We had to scramble. Sophia's parents had to cover costs we weren't prepared for. Her mom had to call in favors just to salvage anything. Then her mother got to feel what I've felt for years, I said. Useful. This isn't about feeling useful, Ethan shot back. This is about you being spiteful because you didn't get your way. My way. My voice rose slightly for the first time. My way would have been a phone call before you proposed. My way would have been a conversation about wedding plans. My way would have been being treated like your mother instead of your ATM. We've always appreciated everything you've done, he said, but it sounded hollow even to him. Appreciated, I said slowly. Is that what we're calling it? Ethan, do you have any idea how much money I've given you? I never asked you to do any of that. You're right. You didn't ask. You just accepted. The condo, the loan payments, the monthly money, the wedding deposits. You took it all without question and somehow convinced yourself I owed it to you. Sophia's expression shifted, something calculating behind her eyes. If you're expecting us to pay you back, that's not happening. Gifts don't come with strings. You're right, I said. Gifts don't. But respect does. And the moment you decided I was too embarrassing to stand beside you, you lost access to my gifts. Family doesn't keep score, Ethan said. And I recognized my own words being thrown back at me like a weapon. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. You're right, I said quietly. Family doesn't keep score. But you started keeping score the moment you decided my presence was worth less than my money. You kept score every time you took Sophia's side over mine. You kept score when you accepted thousands of dollars and didn't think I deserved an invitation. That's not fair, he said. Fair. I worked 2 jobs for years so you could have a future. I wore the same coat for 9 winters so you could have textbooks. I sold my wedding ring so you could fix your car. I gave you a home, paid your debts, and asked for nothing except to be treated like I mattered. And when you finally had something that mattered to you, you told me I was too dramatic to attend. Melissa tugged on Ethan's arm. Come on. She's clearly not listening to reason. Reason. I repeated softly. You're standing in a house I've owned for 35 years, angry that I won't fund a lifestyle you never earned, and you're calling me unreasonable. Ethan looked at me, something broken in his expression. Thought you loved me. I do love you, I said, and I meant it. But I finally love myself enough not to disappear just to make you comfortable. They left without another word. The door slammed. The car started. I stood in my living room and realized my hands weren't shaking. Through the window, I saw Carol watering her plants on her porch. She caught my eye and gave me a small nod. I nodded back. Then I went to the kitchen, made myself lunch, and ate it slowly. At 67 years old, I'd finally learned to say no. The phone calls from relatives started the next day. My cousin, my sister-in-law, people from church I barely knew. All with the same script. Concern. Pressure. Suggestions that I was overreacting, that I should be the bigger person. Nobody asked for my side. To the ones I cared about, I explained calmly. To the rest, I simply said I appreciated their concern and ended the conversation. But it was Sophia's social media post that made Emma call me. Aunt Linda, have you seen what she posted? I don't follow her. Emma read it to me. Some people will do anything for control, even destroy their own family's happiness. Praying for those who hurt us because they clearly need it most. Hundreds of likes. Comments calling me toxic from people who knew nothing. Let her post whatever she wants, I told Emma. People who know me will ask. People who don't aren't worth worrying about. A week later, I received a letter from a lawyer, claiming the condo was a gift, that I had no right to evict Ethan, that my withdrawal of support was financial abuse. Called Thomas immediately. This is a scare tactic, he said after reading it. The condo's in your name. They have no case. I'll draft a response. The threats continued for a while. Then they stopped. Ethan moved out 3 weeks after the eviction notice, leaving the keys on the counter without a word. I cleaned the place, repainted, and rented it to a young teacher named Olivia. She reminded me of myself at that age. Hardworking. Hopeful. The rental income went into an account I labeled Linda's Life. And I started actually living one. I took a weekend trip to Nashville with Carol. Went to live music. Ate hot chicken. Laughed until my sides hurt. I joined a pottery class on Thursday nights. Turns out I'm terrible at pottery, but I don't care. It's fun. I donated monthly to the women's shelter. Not just money but time. I volunteered twice a month, helping women navigate legal resources, sitting with them while they made hard calls, reminding them that boundaries aren't selfish. One woman, Margaret, was 73 and had been living in her car after her daughter drained her accounts. She cried when she signed the lease on her new apartment. I thought loving her meant giving her everything, she whispered. I know, I said, holding her hand. Thought that too. My relationship with Emma deepened. We started having dinner every Sunday. Real conversations. Real connection. She never pushed me to reconcile with Ethan. 9 months after the wedding, I heard through Emma that Ethan and Sophia were struggling. The rental market was tight. Their income didn't stretch without my help. They'd moved to a smaller place, sold the car, were living the version of adulthood I'd tried to protect him from. Part of me ached for him. But the woman I'd become knew better. Struggle wasn't cruelty. It was education. 3 months after that, Ethan sent a text. Can we talk? I responded. When you're ready to apologize for how you treated me, I'm here. He never replied. And you know what? I was okay with that. Because I'd spent 35 years being the person who fixed everything, who gave endlessly, who swallowed hurt to keep peace. I couldn't do that anymore. Not even for my son. Especially not for my son. 1 year after that phone call, I bought myself a new winter coat. It sounds small, doesn't it? But when I slipped my arms into those sleeves, saw myself in the mirror wearing something new and beautiful, I almost cried. The saleswoman asked if it fit. It's perfect, I said. That coat became a symbol. Not just in my closet but in my life. I wasn't carrying anyone but myself anymore. I planted a garden that spring. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, zucchini. More than I could eat. I gave vegetables to my neighbors, to the shelter, to Carol. I said yes to invitations I used to decline. Book club. Movie nights. A weekend at the lake with friends from church. I lived. Not extravagantly, not recklessly, but fully. As myself. Without apology. One afternoon, almost 2 years after everything fell apart, I was sitting on my porch with iced tea when Carol came over. Linda, she said, settling into the chair beside me. I've been meaning to tell you something. What's that? You look different. Lighter. Thought about that. Feel lighter. Good, she said. You deserve it. We sat in comfortable silence, watching kids ride bikes in the street, their laughter floating on the warm air. I thought about what I'd tell someone in my position 2 years ago. Someone sitting at a kitchen table, heartbroken, wondering if setting boundaries made them a bad mother. I'd tell them this. Love cannot be proven with bank statements. You are not an ATM with inconvenient feelings attached. And if someone treats you like you only matter when you're useful, at some point you have to stop funding your own erasure. Not out of spite. Not out of revenge. But out of the simple truth that you matter too. That your life has value beyond what you provide. That being needed isn't the same as being loved. I don't know if Ethan and I will ever repair what broke. Some days I hope we will. Other days I accept we might not. But either way I'm going to be more than okay. Because I finally learned the lesson I'd been trying to teach him his whole life. How to stand on your own 2 feet. Last week Emma called with news. She's pregnant. Asked if I'd want to be involved. Help out when the baby comes. Said yes. Not because I owe her. Not because I need to be needed. But because she's never treated me like a wallet with legs. She's never made me feel like my worth was tied to my usefulness. She's family. Real family. The kind that doesn't keep score because respect goes both ways. I'm 69 now. I work part-time at the library. I volunteer at the shelter. I have pottery class and book club and friends who actually see me. I have a life that's mine. And every morning when I wake up in my little house on Maple Street, I feel something I haven't felt in decades. Happy. Truly, completely, joyfully happy. Not because everything's perfect, but because I finally chose myself. And that choice saved my life. So before I go, I want to ask you something. If you've ever felt invisible to someone you love, if you've ever given everything and been treated like nothing, if you've ever wondered when it's okay to finally say no, let me tell you, it's okay right now. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to take up space in your own life. And if this story meant something to you, if you felt it in your chest the way I felt it in mine, leave me a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs permission to choose themselves. And subscribe, because every single one of us has a story about the moment we finally put ourselves first. This was mine. My name is Linda Martinez. I'm 69 years old. I live in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm not anyone's backup plan anymore. I'm the main character in my own story. And let me tell you, that story has a beautiful ending. One where I wake up smiling. Where I'm surrounded by people who love me for who I am, not what I can give. Where my calendar is full of things I actually want to do. Where I look in the mirror and see someone worthy of respect. That's the ending I wrote for myself. And it's the happiest one I could have ever imagined.